Well, good evening, good evening, good evening. Another time here on Reset. This time is dedicated to the teachers, but I would definitely believe that parents could benefit today as well. So, as people are coming in, you're going to see my name if you're not already in here, Cherie McGee, Senior Consultant with Try Now Consulting. We assist teachers and parents who find themselves challenged in the space that they are in with children. And so today I have an amazing guest with me. You all have already seen the title. It is Reach, Then Teach. This is so exciting because it's something I definitely believe in, and I'm excited to hear Miss Santricia Dean's perspective on this topic. So we're going to get right into it. As you are coming in, please make sure that you say hello so we know that you are here and who you are. And of course, you want to share. And if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and drop those as well. All right, so I have again Santricia Dean here with me, affectionately known as Sandy. I have known Sandy a whole lot of years, a lot of years. And so I do know what she's going to be talking about is tested and proven, tried and true. I actually taught with Sandy for a couple of years, 2 to 3 years, I believe it was, at a school. So we were peers. And she also taught my oldest child, my son. So I've gotten firsthand look at and experience with Santricia and her methods. So super excited about her sharing with you all today. So, as always, I always love for my guests to introduce themselves because who can do that better than you? So, Sandy, I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself.
So, hello everyone. I am Santricia Dean, and as Cherie said, affectionately known as Sandy. But Santricia Dean is what makes me unique because of my name. There's a story behind it, but we'll say that for another time. I am a proud wife. My husband, I've been married for 15 years. I have three amazing children. I have a 13-year-old, 11-year-old, and a 3-year-old. I am an educator by nature, by profession. That's my passion. My heart is education, and not just education, just being in the classroom and leave, from 8 to 3 and then leaving. My everything that I do is centered around me being an educator, and that's as the title states, reach then teach. That is my methodology for how I continue to reach my students, the community, the parents, all is all collective to help our students thrive. So that's a little bit about myself.
Awesome sauce. So, Sandy, you are an educator, amazing teacher. What made you want to become a teacher?
I wanted to be a teacher all my life. My mom can tell you from as early back as 5 years old. So I have three brothers. I have an older brother who's a little bit less than a year older than me, but then I have two younger brothers. So I remember when my mom brought this baby home when I was 5, I was so excited about having this baby brother. But I remember I in my mind, I knew he was a baby, but I wanted to teach him all the things. Like, oh, you know, our parents prep the child. Oh, you could teach him how to do this and teach him how to do that. And so in my mind, he came home. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna teach him how to do all these things. So fast forward, I was the one that taught him his alphabets, numbers, and things like that. And then I also around 7, 8 years old, I was outside teaching the students, not students, my neighbors in an abandoned car. Like I'll play teacher in the car with our neighbors and things like that. So there are stories of me as a child teaching, and then my brothers are a byproduct of what I of me being a teacher. So it started as early as me being, I'm going to say about 6 or 7, because my brother learned pretty much learned his numbers and letters around 1 or 2. Before he could talk real good, he knew his alphabets and numbers because I had a passion for it. So it was always in my destiny to be a teacher, and that's exactly what I am. So I've been a teacher for 19 years, and I look forward to years to come.
I love it. Teaching is definitely a calling. I always
Yes.
say
Oh
that.
my
Definitely not something that you should just wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, I think I'm going to teach." Absolutely not.
yes.
All right, so let's get into it, Sandy. It's why
Yes.
we are here. Reach, then teach. Talk to us about that.
So my as a teacher, and we can attest to as a teacher, a parent, anybody that's alive now, you can actually see how there's a mass exodus in education
Mm-hmm.
because teachers are burnt out, teachers aren't being supported, teachers feel less than, and all those things I have felt other than wanting to leave because I know my passion is education. However, I was trying to find like the root of why most teachers are leaving, why students don't like to learn or not learning, and why labels are put on people on students so early. And it's because I found out, just like as Cherie said, through trials and tests, or me testing out some things, is that we have to learn how to reach our students before we can even teach them. Open up a book before we can do any of those things. We have to reach them. What does that look like? Reaching a child is learn, like for me, I'm a second, third grade teacher right now. So my students came in my classroom. I build a relationship with them before they were even enrolled in my class. I reach out to their parents, try to connect with them before they become my student in the classroom. They're my student on roster, but before they come to the classroom, get to know who they are, ask their favorite things, trying to find out their family dynamics and all these things. Not to be nosy, but to reach them, find out some strengths and weaknesses that doesn't just involve their academic level, but also those things that are emotional, the social struggles, and some of their social and emotional and social triumphs. So that's the reach part, because I found out when you reach a student, especially in those early elementary years and even in those middle school years, you are building a relationship, and relationship is so important, especially for kids who are coming out of this pandemic or have been locked up for not locked up, but in a house for a year and a half. We've lost the relationship piece because we're doing everything through technology, and so our students desire that person that can connect with them, and what better person than their teacher, the person they see more of their awake time than their parents sometimes. So
Mhm.
I took that because I had really good teachers in my career. I mean, not in my career, in my lifetime, in my early years, I had some really good teachers, and I needed those teachers in those certain moments in my life. I remember having teachers who wanted to know who I was, Santricia was, not just as a student, but as a person. So it's important to reach a child before you can teach a child, because when you reach a child, like I said, you're building that relationship with them. You gain a respect level that is not easily broken. And then you also can connect with their community, because as a parent, I'm a parent of three kids, and my it's important to me that you have a relationship with my child. You know my child, not just, oh, Corey can do this or Daniel can do this, but you know them. You know them intentionally. You made the intentional effort to know who they are as a person.
Mhm.
And I've been truly blessed. Every teacher my children has ever had has created a relationship with them, and that has been purposeful for both my husband and I to have those people in their community, because again, they spend most of their time with those people.
Mhm. Really good. I love that. So, Sandy, can you talk about, because we all know, when I was a teacher previously, we all had those students that pretty much take care of themselves. They do everything you say. Then you have some that are kind of in the middle. Then we have some on the other side that honestly can be a little difficult to reach. So, how did you deal with that when you had situations like that? If you think of one like in particular.
Absolutely. So, one thing about me, I look a lot younger than I am. So, coming in the door, teaching fourth, fifth, sixth grade, they're looking at me like, "Oh, this baby just started." The parents and the student, and so it was. So I got to get past that barrier, number one. But my heart's desire is to reach those that other educators didn't want to reach. So I've always had these students, because I teach in a school. Right now I teach in a school that's smaller, and so the parents bring them to us with different situations, or these kids have had trauma in their education path, and so I take those kids under my wing. And so one student in particular, and I even today I loved on him today, because I realized where how far he has come. When I got him, he was in third grade, but he was 10. So I saw, and I was like, wow, why, what happened? Something happened. So I got him. He couldn't, there was some serious struggles. He wasn't reading, he couldn't write. trying to get him to do anything academically was a struggle. And so that's where the practice of reaching him came in before I could actually teach him anything. Because obviously, it had some other teacher in his early years had tried, but it didn't connect. So this when the behavior issues come in because they have these other underlying issues that either a has not have not been addressed, have not been focused on, or have been dismissed. So I love those challenges because I feel like, again, teaching is my passion. I can't expect every child that comes into my classroom to be the perfect student. I always feel like if I don't have at least one in my class, then I'm not going to be able to teach to my fullest potential because God has given me this innate gift to be able to reach those that are a struggle. So so being 10 years old in the class with third graders when you're supposed to be in fifth grade, of course it was embarrassing. It was a self-esteem issue, all these different things. And I had to teach, but also keep all those things in mind. And I remember having to intentionally connect with him multiple times throughout the day to make sure that we were on the same path, have conversations with mom. And he had a lot of family issues going on that were out of his control. He had experienced a lot of grief. I had just lost my grandmother. I was in we were going through the stage of losing my grandfather and me being a caretaker and things like that. So I could connect with him in losing those individuals that's close to him. So I love that we were going through some things together. I could help him, and he was helping me. I am a better teacher because I had this in my classroom. He helped me to be able to help those students that came behind him that were a struggle or not. And I'm not going to say a struggle because I don't like that. I don't like to name kids, give kids labels because they're all students. A lot of situations that they face, or even the things that we face, interacting with them, it has nothing to do with them as a person, but just their environment and the things that they encounter in their everyday life. So I keep those things in mind. And what frustrates me is um, being in a community of teachers who are just in it to teach and they miss that part, their relational part. And over the years, I've been very intentional of connecting with educators who have the like mind like me. We want to build relationships, and even those that don't, but have desire to be able to make those connections and do that. So um, that's when I started. Right around that time is when I started doing classroom transformations. Like, okay, so today we're gonna transform this classroom to this so that I can reach them. Like, okay, today our class is gonna be Starbucks. Everything we do is gonna be centered around that. We're seeing that around the globe now, where teachers are using these unique ideas to be able to reach their kids. But for me, it started because I wanted to build relationships, because I wanted to get out of the monotony of teaching, but first reaching my students, because not just the students with behavioral issues or social emotional issues desire or deserve to be reached. Even those perfect kids that we label, they need that too, because everybody is looking for something. And so that's I try to make my class engaging, fun, interactive, and so to reach to teach it encompasses all of
Absolutely love it. So, in terms of relationship, what I heard you saying was those students that you found to be more difficult to reach, instead of pushing them away or rejecting them or ignoring them, you pulled them closer
that. Right.
and you allowed the challenges to make you better as an
Yes.
educator. And I love that because in all of my years of teaching, and I've had some very difficult students to reach initially, there's always something good about every student. Like, I don't care what their behavior is, what they've got going on. They may be trying to flip your classroom upside down, but there is something good that you can hone in on and use that to let them know that you care and actually reach them. So definitely know that to be true. And then I heard you say, and I want you to expound on this because I've seen you do this also, when you talked about how reach then teach. It's more than just relational. It starts relational, but even the things that you do, like you said, to keep them engaged.
Right.
It's
Yes.
not just cracking your lesson open and telling them they better listen, they better sit up straight, they better get their work done, but actually making your lessons engaging. So you talked about classroom transformation, and I've seen two or three of those that you did, and it was totally phenomenal. Can you talk about that? Because I
Yes.
saw you turn your classroom into a Starbucks one time. I'm like your whole
Yes.
class, and I
Yes.
know how much work that takes. Like I am the teacher who is not gonna have 15 different bulletin boards. I'm looking for one color paper that's gonna last at least 2 or 3 of the seasons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you literally transform. I mean, transform your entire classroom into something different, and that is very creative.
Yeah.
And it's really phenomenal in going the extra mile because nobody requires that out of you
Yeah.
as a teacher. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What started you to doing that, and
Yeah.
give some examples.
So I started the school that you and I worked at together. I remember my students we were learning about the Battle of Bunker Hill. And my students were struggling with the content because it was like, okay, this is history. It's boring. I don't care. And so for me as an educator, and this may be this is my thing. I feel like if more than two students fail a test, then I need to reteach. I have not done my job. And so I was noticing that multiple students were failing, and they and the questions that were causing them to fail was just a matter of relating, trying to relate with them. And so I remember taking them out. I was it was a it, I'm in Chicago, so it was super cold. It was the snow was up to my kneecap, so you can imagine how it was for students. And I was like, you know what? I'm like, we're about to do something different. So I take all them outside to the back of the school, and I'm like, we're gonna reenact the Battle of Bunker Hill. And we did that. And it was so much fun. I was like, I had to get them out of their environment. And it was so amazing. And so when they came back in, they not only were they wet and cold, but they had so much fun. And they were like, oh, that was the best day ever. And I remember like, what? I remember trying to figure out where did that come from? I don't remember. I wasn't at home lesson planning and say, oh, this is what we're gonna do this day.
Right.
It came in a moment's notice. And so I remember the feeling. I felt good, they felt good, and every last student passed the test. Not passed the test, but got an A on the test. Every last student in the classroom. And I remember my colleagues like, what made you do that? And I'm like, I honestly, that just came at a moment's notice. It just happened instantly.
Mhm.
And so from there, I was like, what can I do? Because I was like you. I'm not the creative type as far as like decorating all that stuff. I'll pay somebody to do all that. But this is my space. This is where I'm doing what I'm most passionate about. Just
Yeah.
like how you do your home, that's how I feel about my classroom. Because again, I spend a lot of time in my classroom. So fast forward to like how what got me into doing transformation. So um, there's a educator that most people know by the name of Ron Clark. I was reading his book and I was fascinated by this guy. And so I shared the information. And me and my principal at the time, we were talking about it. And he was like, you know what? I'm gonna send you. So he sent me to Atlanta to visit Ron Clark Academy. And I just fell in love with what I saw. But I also had this critical mind, which was brought up at the school when we were there for the conference. And it was like, how do I don't have an expense account to be able to do all the things that they do. And so I remember the one thing he said it doesn't cost. Like he said, bed. Your best friend is gonna be bed. And so I'm like, okay. So I came back to Chicago. I remember that. If I ain't remember nothing else, I remember it doesn't hurt to beg. The worst they could say is no. My grandmother used to always say that to me, but when I heard him say it in terms of education, I was like, oh, okay. So I started asking people, like, okay, I want to do my first classroom transformation ever was surgery day. And I put it out there on Facebook in Facebook land, and people started donating. I did that, and I shared it on Facebook, and people from other countries were reaching out to me. Can you can you send me the information? I thought this was amazing. I love how you did it cross curriculum, but it was just so I got so much great feedback from that. So then I started to do that multiple times. So instead of doing it once a semester or once a quarter, I started doing it like after every big unit or something like that. So now that has become who I am. Miss Dean is the room transformation teacher. The hard part about doing that is has nothing to do with my students, nothing to do with even gathering the materials to create an experience. The hard part about it is getting other teachers to do it because they also have that mindset like That's too much work. I don't feel like doing all that because it does. Like I spend the whole night before. My husband helps me. I have a great support system,
Hmm.
but it's the end goal that is the reward when it all comes down to it's the end goal because those students are learning and it has been proven my students are learning, so I'm reaching them through classroom transformation. So I even asked them, what do you all want to do? So that's how the Starbucks came along. Then I Google and I started seeing that other teachers are doing Starbucks and doing these things. So I'm a part of this organization called Get Your Teach On, and in that teacher community, that's what a lot of us do. So we collaborate and come together with different ideas and things like that, but there are teachers all over the globe that's doing the same thing. But I like to think it's uniquely me because I don't have, it's not at my reach. Like I have to reach out to people in other states and reach out to my GYTO. That's what we call ourselves. That's our acronym, GYTO. But I have to reach out to them to get it. And I just wish that every child had that same feeling that my students have when I do classroom transformation. Because even after, like, I have kids that graduated from high school, in college, they're like, I remember Miss Dean, I remember. And it's not a boost of ego, but it just lets you know that it was all worth it. It was all
Absolutely.
worth it.
Absolutely. Go back to, but see, I don't think they can really see this class transformation. They can just put up a couple of posters.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
You're going to have to repost some of those pictures. So, like the
Yes.
one you did with the surgical,
Yes.
talk about what all you had in the class and the students, they were able to wear certain things. Like, I
Yeah.
remember that one distinctly. Go ahead.
So I did it where I like I said, I reached out to my community and I only asked for masks and the surgical gowns. Before I knew it, this a friend of mine, she had given me the 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 coveralls for the feet and the mask and everything. And so I'm like, oh, I can't have that and not have the badge around. So I had a scanner. I scanned them in. They come in. There's draping from the ceiling so everybody have their own operating room. I used the science teacher's skeleton, and I had bags of Kool-Aid as blood hanging from different poles. And all these things, I mean, it didn't cost much of anything, but it was the experience. I had the operating music playing on YouTube on repeat. Um, and then I took my son at the time. I mean, my son, he was in my class at that time, but I took his body and I drew an outline of his body, and every student got an outline of a body, which happened to be my son's. But they, as they completed tasks, so we were learning about, we were doing sentence fragments in English, or we were doing long vowel, short vowel, and spelling, or we were doing math, fractions and math. Everything, as they completed tasks, they got organs to put on this blank person and trans to do a like blood transfusion or a heart transplant, and it was just amazing. My students enjoyed it. It took me forever to get my parents out there. I'm like, okay, you guys, thank you. Everybody wanted to volunteer. It was amazing. That was my first one after that, but the one that the spare the moment one. But that was one of my favorite ones. And I did superhero day. That was one of my favorite ones. But they got to dress up as a superhero, and I had different stations where they came in, and they like if they were Batman, they did activity for that for math, or if they Superman activity for reading. They switched stations throughout the day, and then their end goal was to create their own superhero name, and that's what I called them for the duration of the school year.
Absolutely love it. And like you said, they'll never forget it. That is phenomenal. And that would definitely reach them so that you can teach them. I know that made your job easier.
Yes.
So that
And
is,
it does. It
yeah.
really does make your job easier. And
Mhm.
it's fun.
Shouldn't we have fun?
Yes.
Yes, we should definitely have fun. That is phenomenal, Sandy. So we're getting to advice. So
Yes.
advice that you would give first, novice teachers for this school year, and then advice that you would give to veteran teachers for this school year.
Yes. So for new teachers this school year, my advice is to take it step by step. Glean from what's in front of you and not try to make all these things happen at one time. is take those steps, take the steps and make it your own. It's nice to glean from veteran teachers, but make it your own. Get that advice, take what you can use, and don't try to do it all as a new teacher because things are constantly evolving.
Mhm.
Make it your own. I wish somebody had told me that when I first started in education. I spent more years trying to be something that that wasn't me.
Okay.
And then I spent the remaining of those years trying to redeem myself and create and really live out who I am, who Centrisha Dean is. So that would be my advice for new teachers, for veteran teachers. We cannot keep doing what we're used to doing. I have learned, and yeah, I've been teaching for 19 years, but in those 19 years, I realized what I was doing in 2002, I can't do in 2022 because it's impossible. It's impossible. Our kids are evolving, the education system is evolving, and we want our kids to change. So why not change? Why not educators change also? And the last thing to go back to my title, Reach and Teach.
Mhm.
It is important. Imagine being that teacher, being a teacher of a student who really needed you, but you were so busy trying to teach them that
Mhm.
you did not take the time to get to know them. And if you really have conversations with students, they they love what we have to say. They might not want to hear it all the time, but they actually love what we have to say, especially when we're being real. Especially the millennials now. Like these kids love for us to be real, be authentically us. And so I feel like, and that goes for veteran teachers, new teachers, parents, anybody. The relationship, make it authentic. Be you. Provide experience for your children or for your students. Give them. You can. It's okay to talk about your own experience to a point where it's not bridging you're not going over a line, but it's also important to reach your students or reach your child. And as a mom and as a teacher, that is my goal. Like I'm trying to make sure that the reach before I try to teach them anything, they can see it. I'm living it, or I'm speaking it. And I'm building a relationship. All those things connect to me being able to teach them.
I love it. And this definitely crosses over to parenting. Yes,
Yes.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Our own children in our home that we feed and we give them a room to stay in and all these different things, we still need to reach them before
Yes.
we can teach them. Really, really good. This was amazing,
Thank
Sandy.
you.
So I know that as people watch this and they go back and watch the replay and all of that, they are going to want to get in contact with you. How can they reach you?
So I'm in the process of creating a platform, a space where I'm giving advice, um, offering products on Teacher Pay Teacher, and just building my own platform. But right now on Instagram, I am favored teacher, not favorite, but favored because I am favored by God. So that's where that name comes from, favorite teacher. And then on other platform, on all other social media platforms, I am Santricia Dean. Very unique name, so it's not hard to find. It's only one of me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Awesome. I love it. I love it. All right. So if you've been watching any amount of time, you've been seeing this thing scrolling across the bottom, my website, trynowconsulting.org. If you want more information about Try Now Consulting and myself, you can definitely go to that website if you want to book some time with me. And I'd love for you to do that. You can do that as well. And we can discuss your needs as a teacher or as a parent or both, because sometimes we're both. We can discuss those things further. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you all soon again. And you all have an amazing night.
Thank you.